Today we're covering a man who managed to turn a church, a political movement, and eventually an entire jungle settlement into one of the most infamous disasters in modern history.
We're talking about Jim Jones, cult leader, self proclaimed prophet, professional attention seeker.
A man whose ego became so large that eventually reality itself wasn't allowed to disagree with him, which surprisingly enough turned out to be a terrible management strategy.
Welcome back to Grab Your Brew, where we take a look at some of history's most fascinating, bizarre, and occasionally terrifying stories while enjoying a nice brew. Before we begin, we're going to make jokes throughout this episode. Just a heads up if you're sensitive, but those jokes are aimed firmly at Jim Jones, his hypocrisy, and the absurd claims he made.
The victims of Jonestown were real people who were manipulated, isolated, and exploited. This is ultimately a story about people who were looking for hope and community and ended up under the control of a very dangerous man.
So grab your brew and let's get into it. Jim Jones was born in Indiana in 1931 during the Great Depression.
Not exactly a cheerful start.
No, money was tight, opportunities were limited, and life was difficult for a lot of American families. But even among his peers, Jones stood out.
And not in the future Nobel Prize winner kind of way, but more in the if this kid appears in a documentary 20 years from now, nobody's going to be surprised kind of way.
Witnesses later described him as obsessed with religion, fascinated by power, and strangely interested in death, which isn't exactly the childhood starter pack parents dream
No, most kids wanted bicycles. Jim wanted followers, so do we please subscribe?
It's free. Even as a child, he seemed fascinated by the idea of controlling people. Unlike most children who eventually outgrow, you know, their weird phases, Jim Jones decided to make it his entire personality.
Mm. As he grew older, Jim Jones became interested in preaching, of course.
Mm.
And to be fair, he was genuinely charismatic, which is one of the reasons this story is so disturbing. Most dangerous cult leaders aren't obviously dangerous.
If they were, nobody would follow them.
You're right. Exactly.
Nobody joins a group because someone introduces themselves by saying, "Hello, I'm going to manipulate you emotionally for the next 15 years. Would you like to sign here?"
Where do I sign up? Jones understood people. He knew how to connect with them. He knew how to inspire them. And he knew how to tell them what they wanted to hear, which unfortunately can be a very powerful combination.
In the 50s, Jones founded what became known as the People's Temple. So, at first glance, it seemed genuinely positive. And that's something we need to acknowledge. The People's Temple wasn't built entirely on lies. The organization helped struggling families.
It fed people, it assisted elderly residents, it promoted racial integration at a time when it wasn't popular in many places in America, which made Jones stand out. Many people saw him as progressive.
This was a time in America where people were imagining what society could be. We had the Black Panthers movement. We also experienced the Hare Krishnas. But most interesting to me was Jim Jones and the People's Temple.
Dad was dynamic at times. In the middle of a service, he would, out of nowhere, jump off the stage, wrap an African-American woman up in his arms, and my heart would melt.
When I heard Jim Jones, he spoke about how much he respected the civil rights movement and how important it was that we continue to live out Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. So for me, it was excitement.
Now will each of you give a very fond embrace to your neighbor.
Reverend Jones, how do you account for such an avid following as you seem to have?
I'm principled and dedicated to my people.
Jim Jones.
And some saw him as inspirational, and that's part of what makes this story so complicated. A lot of people joined because they genuinely believed they were helping build a better community.
Which is usually how these things start, not with evil, but with hope.
Unfortunately, hope can be exploited, and Jim Jones was becoming very good at exploiting it.
Now, here's where things begin getting uncomfortable. Because alongside all the positive community work, Jones also wanted complete loyalty,
Not ordinary loyalty,
not healthy loyalty.
the kind of loyalty that is normally associated with medieval kings, the kind of loyalty that where disagreeing with him would be viewed as a personal attack. And if someone questioned him, that wasn't constructive criticism, that was betrayal.
Which is usually a good sign that someone should not be given any power, for sure.
Hmm.
Healthily, leaders can handle criticism. Cult leaders treat criticism like a vampire treats sunlight.
Immediate
Yeah.
panic. Then we get to one of my favourite recurring themes in cult history, the fake miracles.
Ah, yeah. Every cult leader eventually decides they're a magician.
Jones claimed he could heal illnesses, perform miracles, read minds, and predict events. Basically, every superpower except for flying.
The-
How did he get his head through the door?
right. That's probably why he moved to the jungle so it could fit better. Though honestly, if he'd claimed he could fly, somebody probably would have believed him at this point. That's the scariest part.
Mm.
Many followers trusted him so deeply, and trust can make people overlook things they'd normally question, like a cheerleader dancing with her hands red flags, basically.
Investigations later suggested that many of these miracles were staged. Shocker. Which means somewhere there was probably a planning meeting. Okay, everyone, here's today's miracle schedule.
We've got one healing at 10, two prophecies at noon, and Steve is pretending to be cured after lunch. Steve's had a busy week.
Steve deserves a raise. He does.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, cults don't usually offer benefit packages.
So depressing. During the 1960s and the 1970s, the People's Temple grew dramatically. Thousands of members became involved. Politicians attended events, community leaders praised Jones, and this is where things just started to feed his ego more.
It would do, wouldn't it? The more
Yeah.
influential he became, the more convinced he was that he was actually special. Every compliment became proof of greatness, every criticism became proof of conspiracy, which is a dangerous combination because once someone believes they're incapable of being wrong,
Oh, God forbid. Reality becomes optional at that point, and unfortunately, Jim Jones was heading in that direction fast. By the mid-70s, stories from former members started appearing. Some described emotional abuse, others described intimidation. Some claimed members were pressured to give up all of their money and cut ties with every outsider.
sounds familiar, doesn't it? Scientologists.
Yeah. In toxic relationships.
Journalists asking questions. So families were asking questions, former members were speaking publicly, which meant Jones faced, well, he had a choice to make, didn't he? He could address concerns and improve transparency, But that would mean accepting accountability.
Right, that part. Or he could
Oh.
move hundreds of followers into the middle of the jungle. Guess which one he chooses? If you guessed reasonable self reflection,
Oh.
you've clearly never listened to this podcast.
So yeah, he purchased land in Ghana.
Jim Jones became friends with these political people of the day that were being brought into the church to talk before us. People like Angela Davis, Harvey Milk, Moscone. And little did they know, after they left, Jim Jones twisted and represented what they said to show us how evil society was becoming. So we would need to go somewhere and build a place where everybody was equal.
Miles back into the bush, we will be in Jonestown. This is the road leading us to there.
No words could describe the peace, the beauty, the sense of accomplishment and responsibility and camaraderie that's here.
I thought of it as a community that was being built that had the opportunity to become something that actually might be equivalent to a utopia, filled with good people.
It was something that was absolutely amazing.
But when Dad got there, it was a very different environment.
So a small English-speaking country in South America. His vision was ambitious. A self-sufficient community, a socialist paradise, a perfect society.
Historians hear the phrase perfect society and immediately develop a migraine. Every time someone claims they've solved every human problem, things tend to go very badly.
Shocker. Jones called the settlement Jonestown, of course. And to supporters, it sounded like a dream. Fresh start, new opportunities, freedom from outside pressures. The market department worked overtime.
Unfortunately, the reality would turn out to be very different. Hundreds of followers eventually followed him. Some went willingly, others felt pressure, some believed they were helping create a better world. Imagine arriving in the jungle expecting
the dormitories. We have dormitories that are just beautiful, and for those seniors who cannot walk long distances, there is a place provided for them where they can be near the medical staff and they're taken care of like babies. And our children are so beautiful, lovely classrooms, and they're so happy. You just can't imagine that all the hundreds of us here are so extremely happy. I wish I could describe the whole thing to you, but it's hard. But I just must say this. I can't help but say that none of this would have been possible had it not been for Jim Jones.
What is it? A little about your background and how you ended up here?
Sure, well, I guess actually started when I was in Vietnam. I started with drugs while I was over there. Became very alienated, very bitter, very hostile, very angry, and didn't know what to do with myself or my life until I heard about Jim Jones and People's Temple. And when I came to the temple, I stopped doing drugs and gave up cigarettes, alcohol, not because anybody told me to, just because I wanted to. I finally had found something that was real. That's the only way I can describe it. And worth living.
How do you like it here?
It's beautiful. I've never been so totally happy or fulfilled in my life. I can't begin to describe it. You could sit here and talk all day long and no words could describe the peace, the beauty, the sense of accomplishment and responsibility and camaraderie that's here. It's overwhelming. It really is. You can't describe it.
What do you feel caused you to change?
Well, I think it was the fact that for the first time in my life I found something that was real, where people were actually doing and living and putting into action what they were talking about. And being in an atmosphere where people were sincere and genuine and really trying to accomplish something and trying to live with each other, relieve the pressure I'd felt and the anxiety I'd felt before I come to People's Temple.
What do you do here?
Work on the...
Toby, what sort of problems were you having back in the States?
Well, one of the biggest problems that I had were with people rebelling against me because I was a homosexual that was very open about my own being myself. and nobody would seem to want me around, and I always had problems with people accepting the fact that I was myself more so than anything else, and I was on drugs, which was the only thing I had to turn to, you know. I didn't have no, you know, I had a concept of responsibility, what it was, but I couldn't seem to reach that because I didn't have nothing to turn to, being that I was always oppressed by this. And also, I had a very, very militant attitude, very, very militant. Couldn't no one say anything to me hardly without me taking it in a very offensive manner. And I always thought that violence was the answer to everything. That was the only way I seemed to be able to reach people, to be heard.
What has changed all that?
What has changed all that? Concern. True concern that has been shown to me, and belief that someone cares for me. You know, that all this means so much to any individual, to know that someone has a personal concern for them. This is something that's very important to all individuals, I believe. Concern.
And discovering you've signed up for one of history's worst management retreats. The settlement was isolated and remote, far from scrutiny, far from family, far from anyone who could challenge his authority.
Which is exactly how cult leaders like it. The further from people's alternative viewpoints, the easier to control.
And that's why we'll leave things for now, because next time we're heading inside Jonestown itself,
where the dream starts falling apart.
We'll talk about life inside the settlement,
the growing paranoia,
the loyalty tests,
and the visit that would ultimately change everything.
So that's coming up in part 2. Thanks for grabbing a brew with us, Coffee Beans. Please like and subscribe and follow us pretty much everywhere on social media under Grab Your Brew. Sometimes it's Grab Your Brew Podcast.
Yes, if you can't find us at Grab Your Brew, we'll be Grab Your Brew Podcast. Follow us for part 2 next Wednesday. We are now also everywhere you can get your podcasts, including Apple, guys. I finally did it. I finally got through the Apple wall. It took over a year, but I did it. I'm proud of me for that. People, check out our link tree in the bio because it does show all the places, all the other podcasts that we do. It also has our link for if you would like to donate to our coffee dreams. But yeah, guys, I hope you have an amazing week.
Goodbye.